Halina mga bata, tayo nang mag-aral. Sa math, walang maiiwan. Math-sayang, math-aral, tayo ng math-tuto upang ika'y umasenso. Maging matyaga, maging matalino, halina't mag-aral na tayo. Maging matyaga, maging matalino, halina't mag-aral na tayo. Halina mag-aral na tayo. Halina, 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 mag-aral na tayo.
Hello, madlang Mandalenyo. Welcome to our Project SOAR, series of online academic reviews of Mathematics CLAID Learning Module, Grade 6. I am Teacher Nat, a teacher from Highway Hills Integrated School. Sa lahat ng ating mga viewers sa tanghaling ito, huwag kalimutan i-share ang videos, mag-host ng watch party, i-share ang official Facebook page, Math Team, Mathematics Teachers Association of Mandaluyong, at mag-subscribe sa YouTube channel, MTN channel, para maging updated sa aming mga video lessons. Noong nakaraang linggo, sinimulan natin ang advanced lessons. Ngayon naman, magkakaroon tayo ng advanced lessons para sa weeks of Mathematics 7 CLAID Learning Modules. To introduce our speaker, she is a teacher 1 and now she is more than 1 year in service at Hulu Integrated School. She graduated in Polytechnic University of the Philippines with a degree of Bachelor of Science, major in Mathematics. She took up her Master of Arts in Teaching at Eloy Rodriguez Institute of Science and Technology. She is 7 and 9 mathematics teacher. Mga batang mandunong, let's all welcome Miss Princess V. Castro.
Okay, so muli maraming salamat Sir Nat sa iyong introduction. So again, I'm back to discuss with you our advanced study for grade 7, week 6. So hindi katulad nung last week sa module 5 natin, we've covered 5 modules. Okay, so this time we're only gonna discuss 2 modules for week 6. So again, this is Maam Princess from Hulu Integrated School. So thank you so much for again being with us for today to learn in advance for our module. So module 6A is about describing principal roots and telling whether they are rational or irrational. So our objective is to describe the principal roots and tell whether they are rational or irrational. Number 2, to determine the principal square roots of the given numbers. So before we proceed, let's have a review about the set of numbers. So real numbers has 2 parts. So it has rational numbers and it also has irrational numbers. So when you say rational numbers, so these are numbers that can be a fraction or an integer. An integer can be a negative or a whole number. A whole number can be 0 or natural numbers. So on the other hand, when you say irrational numbers, so these are numbers that are non-terminating and non-repeating. So let's have the actual definition of rational numbers. So rational numbers are numbers that can be expressed as a quotient of 2 integers. So fraction is one of its example. We can write it as 3 over 5. 0 can also be expressed as a quotient of two integers. How? So we can write 0 over 3 is equal to 0. 0.35, so that is in a form of a decimal number. So we can express this as a fraction by writing a denominator of 100. So we can write it as 35 over 100. And then negative 11. So same thing, we can write it as a quotient of two integers. So the irrational numbers, on the other hand, are numbers that cannot be expressed as a quotient of two integers. So like what I've mentioned a while ago, so these are non-repeated and non-terminating decimals. So the examples are pi. So hanggang ngayon, hinahanap pa din or sinosolve pa din kung hanggang saan makakarating ang decimal places ni pi. So for square root of 2, square root of 11. So next, we have to recall the definition for square root. So a square root of a number is a value that when multiplied by itself gives the number. So for an example, 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Or we say 3 raised to 2 or 3 squared is equal to 9. So therefore, we say that 3 is the square root of 9. So again, the principal root would be 3. Okay, so the square root of 9 is equal to 3. So 3 is what we call the principal root. So rational roots. So perfect squares are the only numbers that will have a rational or whole number square roots. So let's have the following examples. So number 1, the square root of 25 is equal to the square root of 5 squared. So the answer will be 5. The square root of 25 is 5 because 25 is a product of 5 times 5, right? Okay, so next, square root of 100 is equal to the square root of 10 raised to 2. So 10 is the principal root. So we say that 10 is the square root of 100. So square root of 361 is equal to square root of 19 squared. Okay, so again, the principal root is 19. So we say that 19 is the square root of 361. And 0, so square root of 0, so is equal to, so we can write it 0 times 0 is equal to 0. So the principal root or the square root of 0 is equal to 0. Okay, so it is very advantageous on your part, or it will be an advantage on your part if you would be familiar sa mga perfect square. Okay, so these are some of the perfect square numbers from 1 to 10. So again, how do we get the how to know if the number is a perfect square? If its factors are the same. So like this one, 1 times 1 is 1. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3, and so on. So be familiar with the perfect square numbers. So we have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and 100. So again, these are only from 1 to 10. So now for irrational roots, if the radicand is not a perfect square, the square root is an irrational number. So kanina, the radicand, yung number na nasa loob, if it's a perfect square, therefore, the answer is a rational number, whole number. Now, if the number or the radicand is not a perfect square, so hindi siya yung mga binanggit natin kanina, therefore, the square root is an irrational number. So, examples are square root of 2. So, 2 is not a perfect square. So, this is the estimated value for square root of 2. And square root of 3 as well is not a perfect square. And actually, there's a lot, mas madaming number that are not a perfect square versus the numbers that are perfect square. So let's try to answer this activity. So direction, identify if the given radicals has a rational or irrational square root. So number 1, square root of 49. So how to know, is 49 a perfect square? Okay, yes. So 7 times 7 is equal to 49. Therefore, this is a rational. Okay. Number 2, square root of 12. Is 12 a perfect square? No. Therefore, this is irrational. Next, number 3, square root of 225. Okay, so square root of 225 is actually a perfect square, or 225 is actually a perfect square. So therefore, this is a rational. So number 4, square root of 67. Okay, obviously this is not a perfect square. So this is irrational. Okay, and then last, number 5, square root of 111. So also not a perfect square. So therefore, this is irrational. So again, we identify based on the radicand if our square root will give us a rational number or an irrational number. So let's proceed now to Module 6B. So to determine between what two integers the square root of a number is. So our objective is to determine between what two integers the square root of the number of a number is. So let's have again the review of the perfect squares. So it is a product of two numbers multiplied by itself. So again, these are the examples that we had a while ago, and there. So there is actually a chart of, perfect square numbers from 1 to 30. So you can go ahead and get a screenshot of it or take a picture of it. So you would have a copy. So if you're going to notice, there's actually a lot of numbers that are perfect squares. So advantage nyo kapag kabisado nyo or kapag familiar kayo sa mga number na ito. Okay, so ways to estimate. There is actually two ways to estimate the value of a number that is not a perfect square. So number 1 is using the calculator. So let me show you this video. So the first way to estimate a square root if your radicand is not a perfect square is using a scientific calculator. So if you have the actual calculators, so you may use it. Sa mga wala naman, you can also search in Google desmos.com/scientific and you will have an online scientific calculator. So once you have the calculator, all you have to do is to select the radical sign, so yung symbol for square root, and then you type in the number that you need to find the value for. So let's say we need to find the value or to get the estimated value for square root of 12. So you just need to put in the number 12 and you will be getting the answer right away. So again, this is only an estimation. So let's try another one. So let's find the square root of, let's say, 18. So 18 is not a perfect square. So this is 4.24 to 640,687. So again, it's a very long number. Okay, one last. So again, we click on the radical sign and then you type in the number, let's say 39. And then you click on enter. So there, using the calculator, you may go ahead and find the estimated value of a square root. Okay, so that's the first way. So now, the second way to estimate is to get the average of the two consecutive integers where the square root of the given number lies. So right now, we're only gonna get the two consecutive integers where the square root of the given number lies. So let's have an example. So find two integers where square root of 7 lies. So there's just two steps. Step number 1 is we need to find the two perfect square numbers which 7 is in between. So, nasa gitna. Okay, so before 7, ano ang perfect square? Okay, so we have 4. After 7, ano ang perfect square number? Okay, so we have 9. 4 and then 9. So, 7 is between 4 and 9. So, once you were able to identify yung two perfect square number na papagitna sa 7 or sa given natin, the next step is to get the square root of those two. So, kukunin natin yung square root ni 4 and kukunin natin yung square root ni 9. So, the square root of 4 is 2. And the square root of 9 is 3. So, therefore, we say that square root of 7 lies between 2 and 3. So, now, if you wanted to really get the estimated value, you just need to add 2 plus 3 and then divide it into 2. But again, for this lesson, this is only the part wherein we get kung nasaan ba siya, saan siya naglalay between what two numbers does your given lies. So, another example, find two integers where square root of 83 lies. So again, step number 1, ano ang perfect square number before 83? Okay, so we have 81. And then the other one is 100. So 83 is between 81 and 100. Step number 2, we get the square root of 81 and 100. So the square root of 81 is 9. And the square root of 100, so nawala na si square root. Okay, so the square root of 100 is 10. Therefore, we say that square root of 83 lies between 9 and 10. So let's have one more. So let's find two integers where square root of 147 lies. So again, step number 1, what are the two perfect square numbers which 147 is in between? So we have before 147, there's 144. And then after, we have 169. So next after that, we need to get the square root of 144 and 169. So square root of 144 is 12 and the square root of 169 is 13. So therefore, we say that the square root of 147 lies between 12 and 13. So there you go. That's all for Module 6. I hope you've learned a lot for today's topic. So it's very short. So sana ay matulungan kayo ng advanced study, advanced discussion na ito in order for you to answer our modules. So again, this is Maam Princess and I hope you enjoy your weekend. Goodbye!